Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 124.
Hey, Jay, we're right here at the deer camp in New Hampshire.
Deer Camp in New Hampshire, and our special guest, Stephen Fuller of the Hunting Grounds. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hi, this is Jean McFall, a finalist of Extreme Huntress from Boise, Idaho. You are about to listen to one of my favorite hunting podcasts of all time, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is Jim Berman from Western Extreme, and you're listening to my favorite Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi, this is Mark Hammer from Antler Action Products, and I shot the hammer buck, and you're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast, the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to the show. This is Jay Scott, your host of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, everybody? And Dusty, welcome to New Hampshire, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Jay.
So, you've been here at Deer Camp, New Hampshire for 2 days. Rolled in on a Wednesday and came in a little bit after dark, but we went over to Morse's Sporting Goods and got you a hunting license and yucked it up with Tom Staples and Randy Gagney over there. And one of your first impressions when we saw one of my neighbors from down the road from where I live checking on a deer, you know, it wasn't a monster, but you noticed something. What did you notice?
I noticed that here in New Hampshire, even though you've shot a spike buck, that being proud of what deer you harvested is a meaningful thing here.
That is true. And the excitement behind just even seeing a deer goes a long way. He was as excited as I saw him 2 years ago, and he basically shot the same spike buck that he shot 2 years ago. And he was as elated this time as he was the first time when I drove by the last time he shot a deer.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, really. Fortunate enough that I've been in the woods here in New Hampshire for a couple of days now, and the reality is that, it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. I'm sitting here pretty much wore out, beat up, dragged down, and hurting because of the terrain that you've got to cover, try to stir up a decent deer to shoot at. And it's really no joke, and it gives me a whole different prospect on how, you guys hunt here in New Hampshire. And it's probably one of the best learning experiences and appreciation experiences I've ever had.
So what would you say were some of the differences between hunting Ohio and hunting New Hampshire? I mean, you've shown me some of your deer hunting spots. You've taken me to your stands and given me a synopsis of how it all works. But I haven't actually hunted with you in Ohio. So give me some of because you've done both now. You've hunted Ohio, you've hunted New Hampshire. I mean, clearly we don't have the deer herd that you have.
Right, yeah.
Not even close.
That's a fact,
right.
Just by the experience that I've seen the last 2 days here. And, hunting Ohio is so easy to me. As far as being able to, legally bait deer, you can set up a tree stand on a wood line, facing a field, and deer's going to come to you. Here in New Hampshire, you got to go to the deer. The way you talk, that the early season archery was, similar to Ohio where you can stand hunt. But once the Orange Army come out for this rifle season, my gosh, there's not a deer this side of Mississippi in New Hampshire.
They hide in the thickest of thick covers, and you could walk by them and they wouldn't even care.
I mean, we was in stuff today that you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face walking through it.
Yeah.
It was...
the views.
So let's just tell them real quick. We was in a clear cut that had been
clear cut about 5 years ago.
I'm guessing longer than that because the saplings were huge. These new undergrowth trees were probably, I'm gonna say there was some 12-footers, a lot of 8-footers.
Yeah, I'd put it at more like 6 or 7 years.
Right, and to me it was. I've never been on a moose hunt, and obviously there's moose here in New Hampshire, but it was some prime moose country because. Mm-hmm. every time you watch a moose hunt on TV or on a video, these moose come through this underburden of new growth and a clear cut that is unbelievably thick, and they're so big that they can kind of overpower it.
Yeah. They love that stuff. They love to get their big horns in there and start tearing it up.
Oh, I got my big butt in there and was tearing me up. How about that?
Well, I went through the thick stuff. We put you on a stand, and Greg and I went and circled around. We did a couple of U hooks, basically. I did the short U, but I was in the thickest of the thick stuff, running through the swamp, found out there was a big old hole in my boot, and my foot got real wet real fast. But what I did come across was a bull moose scrape. And it looks a lot like a big deer scrape, except that it starts at your chin level and goes up instead of lower, like at your knees, and goes up. So, I mean, think about this monster that's just roaming through the swampy, the thickest of thick stuff, the New Hampshire jungle, as I like to call it, where you come across a scrape that starts at your chin. And I took a selfie with it, by the way. I don't know if I showed that to you. But it's amazing. I mean, these things are just tearing it up, and they're strong animals, and they're whatever they want to do, they do. They're just that big. So we were in some prime moose country.
Absolutely. And there's something to learn from all this. And it was kind of going to be my chubby times tip of the week, but I'm going to talk about it right now. You see a lot of social media beat downs on people that shoot in smaller racked bucks. And, that needs to be rethought. That today, yesterday, and the day before, I've really kind of learned a lesson I didn't really know existed. If you shoot a whitetail deer in New Hampshire, you've accomplished something, and that's coming from somebody that's had a lot of seat time and a tree stand and a lot of whitetail experience here. With my coming from Ohio to here. It makes you see a different side of hunting that's not available in all areas. And as hard as we've hunted here the last couple of days, we've had 1 5-second opportunity to shoot a whitetail.
Right.
And that's it.
And that was when I was on a drive pushing towards you. I was looking one way. A deer jumped up and bolted and actually ran towards the exact spot where I figured you should be. Turns out you weren't quite there. You were back off the ridge just a hair, and that was my fault. I didn't put you up further enough on the ridge. But that was our one and only opportunity we had in 48 hours of hunting. Basically. It's
pretty amazing, Have I laid eyes on a whitetail? Absolutely not. Am I going to? Maybe. We tried some bear hunting, and it's not as easy as everybody thinks it was, and that boils down to what I was getting to from the beginning is if you're on the internet and you're knocking somebody's deer, you better find out some more details, because if you're knocking a small antlered buck here in New Hampshire, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Because that person that killed that small antlered buck in New Hampshire can out hunt you any day of the week. And that's a fact, because I'm here right now and I'm witnessing what it takes to shoot a buck in New Hampshire. And I'm telling you, you got to be a mountain goat.
Yeah,
that's no joke, Jay. It's not, not really that funny. You got to be somebody that's willing to put in the miles to get a buckshot. And it takes miles after miles after miles. I mean, I watched it, all weekend here, all week.
Right. So you understand now why we pray for snow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And snow would be a blessing. That's for sure, because of being able to track a deer. And if you think somebody in New Hampshire is not a whitetail hunter, you've lost your mind.
So what else did you notice? There were some things that you picked up or just things in New Hampshire that you saw that you said you don't see in Ohio.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's different trees. There's different terrain. There's mountains here the
views are killer.
Oh my gosh, that makes it all that much worth it, just to get up on top of a big mountain and look across to the other mountains.
You see a bigger mountain across the valley. Oh my gosh, man, it's
breathtaking. And I learned that I was out of shape this week and not able to go like the mountain goats that I was hunting with. But it's been a great experience and much appreciated. And we've been out with this guy, Greg, with his brand new Jeep, and with him driving, you would think he was in about a 70 to 85 CJ7 that was just rusted out and was a hunting unit. We've been over logs, rocks, through the creeks, mud bogging, ram jamming, slamming a brand new Jeep for 3 days.
all to get to the prime hunting spots, which turned out not to be so prime this year for some reason. But in years past, they've produced deer. But you can see driving to the pinnacle of a mountain is important because you can hunt downwards. And if you have an off-road vehicle to get to those spots, you have just one slight advantage that you have over having to hoof it in 5 miles.
Yeah, there would be no way that I probably wouldn't have went on half them hunts, really.
Right.
Because of the physical ability of it. I mean, my gosh, we literally drove the Jeep up mountainsides where the rocks were 5-footers,
right,
8-footers, and they're probably 12 to 15 inches thick. We're up climbing over top of them.
Yep.
Bottoming this Jeep out, grinding the gears, and we're taking a Jeep to its pretty much maximum potential of what it's built for. And you think I'm kidding? You're wrong. This is some terrain that only a Jeep or some kind of off-road vehicle like that would make it up through.
Yeah, I was a little nervous there on a few of those adventures that we went. And we've got some videotape, by the way, which we will share on the Big Buck Podcast Facebook page, which is. We'll edit that up a little bit, but just Greg jumping over some of those logs.
Oh my gosh!
One of the other things you said that you haven't really seen in Ohio, where I don't know if you saw some of the woodcock that were flying around, but you said that there was some partridge and that you had not seen in Ohio.
Yeah, the grouse are in Ohio, but not like they are here. I mean, today was a great day. I bumped 4 on one hunt, and then the last hunt we set on, I bumped 2 coming out.
Yeah.
Even, just walking along in a hayfield. It was an amazing experience. Grouse are everywhere. If the grouse were like whitetails, we'd have had a good day.
Yes. We could have gone grouse hunting, and we would have had a lot of fun, too.
Oh, yeah.
Those are good eating and great fun to shoot at.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have missed every one of them. They're fast.
They're very fast.
They come out of the hole like you wouldn't believe. At least that when they take off, they give you a little bit of a warning that they're going up.
That's true.
They give you a little heads up that they're taking flight, and that's what's the advantage of probably being able to get a shot off on one.
Yeah, got to get on it pretty quick. Now, some of the other things, just some of the vegetation you said, that is, you're looking at the ferns and specifically the granite rocks that were stone. There's just stone that has been built into these old fences, basically, from when we used to herd sheep in New Hampshire back when wool was very popular.
Yeah, man, I tell you, somebody put a lot of work into these these rock walls. I mean, there's just miles upon miles upon miles. I mean, we drive back in 4 or 5 miles up a big mountainside, and here's stone walls all the way up and down it.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's the old fields of the 1800 New Hampshire, 1800s New Hampshire. Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. It really is. It's so amazing, beautiful, and the views are stunning, and I've had a great experience.
What I liked is that we were on one peak in the morning, and then in the afternoon we went to a different spot, but you could look back at the very peak we were on, and it looked like it was 1,000 miles away, but it was just a 20-minute drive.
Right. It's a very cool to see.
Yeah.
It
puts it in perspective how big these mountains are.
Oh yeah, you get on top of one, you look across, and you see the one we just come from. It's like, wow,
wow, that's where we were.
No wonder it took us 25 minutes to drive up it in a Jeep.
Yeah, so no deer, and that's it's just part of the hunt here in New Hampshire, and no bear. There's a lot of chance right now, just a lot of random chance. But I'm looking forward to coming down and joining you, Dusty, to see what it's like to hunt Ohio, where you can expect to see a deer daily.
I think the difference going to be is that you're going to enjoy your hunt versus, coming out of the woods empty-handed and miserable. I mean, that's, in a sense, that's the way it is here in New Hampshire. You hunt all day, you wore out, you've pounded your legs to death, and your ankles are sore from hitting all these rocks that you didn't see. A 12-inch rock sticking up in some leaves and you don't see it, man. It just wrenches your legs. Your knees are sore. Your back's sore,
Right.
You're mentally drained because of not being able to use the skills at home here that would normally work at the house. And there's just a whole lot going on here that, man, it'd take me a little while to figure it all out. I mean, it's not undoable, but it's, obviously, physically fit and being able to track the long haul is very important.
Yeah.
And not saying that I can't do it, but, you guys go up and down like it's nothing.
Right.
You've been here, you've done that, and for me, it's this all new experience, and, it's something to talk about, that's for sure. And it really helped me educate myself a little further on the whitetail hunting in a different area, and being able to get that appreciation for what you guys do here in New Hampshire. And my hat's off to all the hunters in New Hampshire that's killed deer or pursuing whitetail deer. It's not easy.
It's not easy, and it's mentally challenging, but for some reason, I still look forward to it every single year, just to put in the time, destroy my body, and exhaust myself trying to just find something that's good to shoot, basically.
And I keep telling Jay, just book a 2-week hunt out at my place every year and forget about hunting New Hampshire. I think I'll do both, actually. Yeah, it's definitely something to experience. And will I be back? Absolutely, because the challenge is what sparks my interest. It's tough.
Yeah, it is a challenge. For sure.
I need to come a little bit earlier in the season when there's some crops and things on that I can work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the crops make things different, especially for bear hunting.
Oh yeah,
the corn is still kind of mulling around, and bear season's wide open. But yeah, if you can get up the first month of bear season, you'll have a much greater success rate because they'll be keying in on the corn. Well, Dusty, let's transition from New Hampshire to Arkansas. Our guest is Stephen Fuller from the Huntin Grounds, who's doing a semi-live TV show online. And we kind of caught wind of Stephen. We've been following a little bit of his stuff, but one of the things that caught my eye in particular was that he ran a video and he said, "Do not ever apologize for being a hunter." And it kind of struck a nerve with me, as I'm sure it does with you, Dusty. And so I reached out to Stephen. I said, "Stephen, will you come on my show and talk about what it's like to hunt Arkansas and what running a semi-live TV show and why we should not ever apologize for being a hunter is all about?"
Let's do it.
Stephen Fuller, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening, my friend?
Oh, not much. Just happy to be on. Big fan. Love listening to all you guys' podcasts. Something I love to do when I'm sitting there behind a desk and have nothing else to do, and I'm already thinking about deer hunting. So.
Oh, God bless you, man. That's excellent. It's nice to find a follower that likes our show. We do bump into him now and then, right, Dusty?
Yeah, we do. Sometimes, often than others, But here lately, everybody's been thinking about hunting, Jay. So it's been a good month for downloads, that's for sure.
Absolutely, very much so. Yes, deer season rolls around right around early September, and we can see our downloads pick up. In October, it's off the charts. Just everybody wants to talk about deer hunting or listen to people talk about deer hunting. So, Stephen, tell us about yourself. Who is Stephen Fuller?
Well, that's a good question. I am kind of a jack of all trades. That's what I do. I'm an average Joe hunter. I work a full-time job, 8 to 5 every single day. And the great thing is that it's for a company, Jotto Gear, that it's a supporter of my show. So they do work with me on my schedule and work with me on supporting the show and getting out there and taking some days off and doing some hunting. I also do the Huntin Grounds on the side and produce that semi-live show every single week. And I'm just trying to get hunting out there in front of everybody that's wanting to see it.
That's cool. So what do you do full time when you're not playing at the Huntin Grounds?
Well, I'm a social media manager, so I do all the Facebooks and Instagrams, and I'm a nerd on that end, so I know what works and how to reach people, and I also do video production for that company. So I just kind of do anything on new product releases to how to install and do that kind of stuff.
No kidding. That's a cool job. I dig that a lot, and I know Dusty's into the social media thing, so we may have to have an offline chat about all that stuff later on.
We can do that. Yep.
Very nice. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where are you living now?
I actually grew up in northwest Arkansas in a little town called Pea Ridge, and it's not so little anymore. This area is growing in northwest Arkansas, home of Walmart. So we get everybody coming in here, and it's definitely growing a lot. Actually, the exciting news is I just purchased my first piece of property I've ever owned just over the line in southwest Missouri. Super excited because it's a place that I can manage and do all my management techniques on and actually live on there too. So I've grown up here all my life and went to college for 5 years at College of the Ozarks in Branson, Missouri, and got a couple of degrees in conservation, wildlife management, field biology, and communication arts and kind of bumped around here or there. I've been a teacher for a few years. I taught biology and felt that the Lord was calling me to kind of get out there into the outdoor world, and that's where I am. I'm all in.
Well, it sounds like you are exploring the world that you studied in college, which is unusual for most people. It usually doesn't happen, but it sounds like you actually are still in that field. So that's pretty neat. So
yeah,
what is it that is causing your area to grow so much? Is it the basis of Walmart there?
It is the basis of Walmart being here. The home offices are here. We've got Tyson's, and so it's just a beautiful area. I mean, this area is in the Ozark Hill country. Man, it's just, we've got everything close. I love the Ozark Hills, but I mean, you're close to Kansas. You can get over there and hunt some of those big bucks, or you can go to the streams down below some of these dams and fish for trout, or go hiking and go cave exploring. We've got everything in this area that is really appealing to people, and I think that's what draws everybody in. Plus, there's a lot of businesses here in this area.
Sounds like an interesting spot to be. You've got commerce and you got the outdoors kind of living symbiotically together somehow, which is interesting. Yeah. Excellent. So you bought a piece of property, and you said it's the first one that you've ever bought to manage. So what's your plan for that piece of property?
My plan's to go crazy. I am just a crazy dude, and I love getting out there and just working my fingers to the bone. I love just the hands-on kind of work. I want to do prescribed burns. I have food plots that we'll be putting in. We'll be putting in some ponds and doing some herd management. And we just got a lot that we're going to do there. I think we're even going to put in a little shooting range, and get the youth involved, because it's one thing about our show is I love passing on the legacy of hunting to future generations. And I want this to be a place that we can get kids out there and, hopefully get their first deer, or chance at their first deer, or it might not even be just a kid. It might be a first-time adult hunter. And so I want this place to be something that gives back to all them, just because it's such a blessing to me. I want it to be a blessing to other people.
Gotcha. So what is your hunting philosophy? As you had kind of discussed in the video that caught my attention online the other day, what is your hunting philosophy overall? I mean, how should people hunt? Should it be a part of everybody's life? And what do you have to say to the people that don't want anything to do with it and think it's the worst thing on the planet?
Well, I get to experience that firsthand, getting to talk with a lot of people that they aren't fans of it, or it's usually just because they don't understand it. And so what I try to do on my show, too, is I try to educate people. I'm not just about, hey, I'm going to go shoot a deer. Hunting to me is a lot more than just going and shooting something. It's a lifestyle, and it's a legacy that I'm hopefully going to be passing on. And, there's just so much going on out there in the world, especially on the social media side right now. I think just because everything's so visual for everybody, if they post a picture of their deer or, any kind of harvest that they have, I think people are scared because there's so much emphasis out there now that it's got to be pure trophies. It's got to be big bucks. It's got to be, the most mature buck that's out there in the woods. And if it's not, then they're making excuses. They post online. I know it's not the big buck, but, it's meat in the freezer, or, I'll get a bigger buck next time. I think we're kind of getting away from our true values of being a hunter and just enjoying the outdoors. And if it is a legal kill and that hunter is hunting legally, then we should support them, because as our numbers as hunters is definitely dwindling out there. And that's why I put so much emphasis on the youth. It's just because we've got to build up our numbers out there. We have everybody against us. Well, not really everybody, but we've got a lot of people that are against hunters, that are against carrying firearms and everything else, that us as hunters, we don't need to be against each other, telling them that they shouldn't have shot, or they should have passed, or why would you even kill something like that? Instead, we should support them and, just be on their side. Like I said, if it is, a legal harvest.
Right. Absolutely. So, and speaking of legal harvest, I think there's a group of hunters that includes me, you, Dusty, and the majority of the hunters out there. But then there's this other group of hunters that are hunters, but they don't necessarily hunt ethically. They don't necessarily hunt legally. Yet they are hunters. They have a hunting license, but clearly violate certain laws and rules. What do you have to say about that group? Are we supposed to support that group too? Or is that somebody that we need to just say, that's not us?
You know what? I definitely don't think that we should support them. But I don't think we should support their efforts in hunting in a legal way. Encourage them to hunt the correct way and maybe set an example out there. And that's what I try to do on my show. I try to set the best example that I can, because I know that there is a lot of younger generation watching our show. And if I'm not setting an example now, then what do they have to follow by? And so, as somebody in the outdoor industry, you run into those people. You get to hear those stories. Those people come up to you and, yeah, I killed the buck this way and did this. Well, I don't have to say, great job. I mean, well, all right, but I don't think that was probably the right means of doing that. I don't think we should support their illegal efforts, because I think that's honestly hurting all of us that are trying to hunt by the rules. And I think that they're missing out on part of the challenge that I love so much. I love the challenges that are faced out there. There's rules out there for a reason. And it's a fun challenge to be successful on the end of a hunt by staying legal all the way through. And those people that instead just want to take the easy way out and go harvest a deer in a way that's not supposed to be done, I think they're missing out on the thrill of it. So I think they're honestly missing out. I want to show the excitement that I can have hunting legally on our show, and hopefully it makes an impact out there.
Gotcha. Let's talk about your show a little bit, the Huntin Grounds.
Yep.
Where did that come from? Is that your brainchild, and what's the mission behind the whole thing?
Man, it is. It's my brainchild, I guess. I guess you could say that. I mean, God just instilled that in me. He really did. I was a teacher for 2 years and loved teaching biology to the kids. And but I just felt like I had a calling that I needed to take a leap of faith and get out there into the outdoor industry, some way, shape, or form. And, I started producing these little videos on YouTube. I had worked with Grant Woods when I was in college. He didn't live very far from there. And so I was one of those guys that I went out to his place for a little college trip. And, I did everything I could to get his number, say, how can I help you out? Because I just wanted to be around him and get some of that knowledge off of him. So, after all that, my idea was there's so many hunters out there that the industry is not really helping out. If you watch all these shows, there's so many shows out there that are telling you how to manage your property. They're large tracts of land. You have to have a lot of money to manage them. And the majority of the population out there have small tracts. They have, anywhere from 5 to 60 acres, and they aren't having that 1,000, 2,000 acres that you're seeing on TV, or have the tractors and the equipment. So I wanted to do a cost-effective management show that showed techniques that they could use on their small property to grow and hold deer. And I kind of experimented with a 15-acre piece of property I had, was able to turn it around and take some awesome deer on it, not just myself, but my dad, and where our neighbors, they were killing these little 2.5 or 1.5-year-old deer that were not of any size, and they're wondering, what are we doing? How are we holding the deer when they could, 15 acres is not very much land. They could easily cross the fence, but we had the desirable spot. Started putting that out there. Well, it just took off. Had a couple of sponsors here and there kind of hit me up and say, hey, if you can work with us, we'll work with you. And, I decided that this is going to be my mission in life, is just to grow this thing and to spread the word of Christ. And I've got to have him as my foundation in it, and got to put him first through everything. And I think through that he's been, faithful to me and helping me grow this show. And it's definitely not always been easy, but we produce a semi-live show every single week. That's one thing I love doing. I don't like waiting a full year for, someone's hunt to come on TV and see what they did last year. Instead, I've got a show that's releasing, today that we filmed earlier this week that shows all the techniques and what the deer are doing in our area. And it's going to be a full HD video that these people can follow, and hopefully it relates to them and their hunting conditions where they're at that same time. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'm going to keep growing it and keep doing all I can to just grow this show as much as I can.
You say semi-live show. What does that mean?
Yeah. I think I made that up. I don't know. I've had a lot of questions out there. Like, I've got it on the side of my truck, semi-live show, and some people are like, what is that? I'm like, well, it's not a live show. We don't release right then and there, but I also don't release weeks down the road. It's a few days out usually, so I'm just going to call it semi-live. So it's not technically live that minute, but it's within a week's time frame that we're releasing these episodes.
It's catchy. It's kind of interesting. Now, all your stuff is done online and not through like a Roku or Apple channel or a Hunt channel, and you're not on regular TV, or are you?
We aren't. We were on the Hunt channel for a while,
okay,
and just decided to take a route to go online. And so, we're on YouTube and Vimeo, and I work in some other areas out there in the online video side that we're going to hopefully be getting into, but we were doing some on Facebook as well. So all strictly online, and been really blessed with the amount of people that we're reaching every single week.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have experimented in different mediums and different TV channels or avenues. Gotcha. All right, very good.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about some deer hunting a little bit, specifically hunting that's specific to you. Like, I want to learn more about what you bring in the field with you, what's in your pack. So tell us what kind of things you go through frequently. And Dusty, you can kind of chime in here and help kind of dissect this pack that Steven's carrying. Tell us
what kind of pack are you carrying? Let's start there, Jay. Are you carrying a pack to the woods with you?
Well, I do. I carry a pack on me all the time because I'm one of those guys that I'm almost overly prepared. Then I don't like to forget anything. So I've always got a pack on me. I've got one of those little shoulder strap packs that the main part of the pack is actually going around your waist. It's just been a lot easier for me because there's times that I'm going into a rural area that I've not hunted before, and I want to carry a climbing stand, so that makes it really easy. I don't have a backpack back there that I'm trying to set the climbing stand on top of. It's not as hot as a full backpack, but it allows me to put all my gear around my waist. And the awesome thing about that, too, is once you're up in the tree, I usually take that pack that's around my waist, and I'll go ahead and put it around the tree just like I would my waist, but it's right there and everything's accessible for me.
Any particular brand that you're using?
There really isn't any brand that I particularly use. The one that I've got right now is the Cabela's brand, because it's a pretty cool pack because you can accessorize it a little bit more and put the backpack on it if you want, and you don't just have to have the belly kind of waist pack that's on there. But I would say anything that you can put around your waist, I kind of prefer to carry that in than something up on my shoulders because I want to be slinging the gun on my shoulders or might have a tree stand on my back.
Right, for sure. So if we was to grab this pack out of your truck on your way home from camp tonight, you pull in or from the woods, and we grab your pack and we decide that we're going to lay everything out on the hunting camp deck, what are we going to find in this pack?
A lot of goodies, and I would be mad if you stole it. But no, I try to overly prepare. I've got everything in there. I've usually at least got, a headlamp, and I've got an additional light on there just in case my headlamp goes out. I've always got that. I've got zip ties to make sure I can put my tags to my harvest in there. I've got a knife that's got a gut hook on it. I've got some cover scents in there. The one I love to use is Nose Jammer. It's an awesome product. I encourage you to check it out. I always keep a can of that in there, and they have these nose jammer wipes that are an exceptional product that if you get hot and sweaty walking to the stand, you can wipe yourself down, clean up, and descent yourself out there. I've got those. I also carry a very small set, and when I say small, they're a small set of rattling antlers off of a small buck I killed when I was young. And the reason I carry a small set is just because I want to sound like the small guy in the woods that everybody else can come out, hopefully kick my butt, because I want a bigger deer. I don't want to scare away my deer. So I carry a small set there because it fits in my pack. I'll have a grunt tube in there and sometimes a bleat can if the grunt call that I have that day doesn't have the bleat on it. And I think that's pretty much the basics that's in there. I've got my face paint and some stuff like that, but
no TP or what?
Oh well, those wipes that you can wipe your face down with from Nose Jammer, they double in uses there. So,
yes, they double.
Your nose jamming something else, huh?
Yep.
Gotcha. Interesting. That's one heck of a pack, and it sounds like you've got about everything that you need to make successful hunts with. Do you pack in video camera equipment too?
I do. That's usually outside my pack. That's one thing I will not go to the woods without. If I'm going to go to the woods, my video camera equipment, because I want to share my experience with everybody out there. So I've always got my cameras, charged and ready to go. Sometimes I'll have my smaller camera, which is a Canon G20. I'll have it in my pack if I'm not filming myself walking in. But I've usually got my muddy camera arms strapped onto the back of my pack, and oftentimes I'll have a secondary camera angle from my bow or my gun with a Spy Point XL. So I've always got my cameras. That's something I always carry, and not always in my pack, because I'm trying to tell the whole story of walking in and setting up and where I'm at. So
yeah, for sure. You just never know.
Gotcha.
No.
All right. So now that we've got your pack kind of figured out, let's talk about your hunting strategies. I mean, it's one thing to pack a bunch of gear in the woods, and certainly many people are guilty of that and carrying so much stuff, and it doesn't sound like you're overloaded by any means. But the gear is one thing. There's also the hunter. There's also the knowledge that you've got in your head and how you go about planning your hunt. Where do you start when you're trying to figure out where to hunt a new piece of property?
Well, this is a challenge that I'm faced with all the time because, I travel and hunt with the show. And the cool thing about that is a lot of times I'm hunting with fans of the show. They say, hey, I've got a little bit of property here if you want to come up and hunt. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do that. And they're like, really? You're going to come? Yeah, I want to come up and hunt with you. That's what I'm all about. I'm not just going to the places where only the big bucks are known to be. I just enjoy hunting. And so when I'm going to those places, a lot of times I don't know anything about that place. So for instance, I went up to Central Missouri this year and I had 3 days to hunt up there. And so I was hoping that first day to take a half a day, go as quick as I could, and scout everything and see if I could even set up maybe that first evening and get in the stand. Well, my scouting wasn't panning out the way I wanted to because I was not finding the deer sign. So I took the first full day, and if I had to take more, I probably would have. But I found the deer sign that I wanted to find. I'm a big fan of travel corridors. Not always hunting over food plots, and I don't really hunt over bait or anything like that to set up where I know the deer naturally travel, hopefully between bedding and feeding, because that's where I want to get the most activity and the longest activity. Normally, if you're going to hunt like the food plots or the bedding area, you're going to have quick movement for a short amount of time, and it's going to be done. You're going to have movement to that food plot early in the morning, then they're out, or late in the evening. But back up in those woods, in between there, they could be moving there throughout the day because they've got the cover, it's cooler. That's what I normally do. And so when I did that up in Missouri, we had 3 days to hunt up there and found the spot we needed to find, put up our advanced tree stands up there, and man, we had deer every morning, every evening. Every time we were in the stand, we had deer coming within 20 or 30 yards of us. And that's what I try to do. I almost will scout too much, and I'll put up a lot of trail cameras. And when I'm not hunting one area, I have a trail camera doing all the work for me, hunting my other areas, so I can see what I missed when I was not there.
Gotcha. Very good. So what, during the hunt, okay, once you've established a place where you want to be, and you kind of know your setup, what types of things are you cognizant of? What are you aware of? What kind of strategies do you employ when you're in the stand?
Well, when I'm in the stand, I definitely take in consideration my wind, even though I've done everything that I can to eliminate all my scent, and I've covered up, with the nose jammer spray and stuff. I've tried to do everything I can to make sure the deer aren't going to be able to pick up my scent, but I still pay attention to that wind because that wind is crucial. Especially here in the Ozark Hill Country, we get a lot of swirling winds. They swirl all day, every day. And so I do like a little bit of wind to make sure I do know where my scent is being carried. It's definitely one thing I want to pay attention to. Depending on where I'm setting, if I'm setting on a field edge or something like that, I'm also going to be paying attention if I'm going to be hunting there in the morning or evening. Is that sun going to be lighting me up, all morning long, or am I going to be in the shadows? I like to be in the shadows, just because it's going to allow you to be hidden that much more. And usually, especially in the evenings, that's where the deer are going to be. If it's especially a warmer evening, they're going to be in the shadows feeding. As the shadows go out in the field, usually they'll follow them out because they've got their coats on, their winter coats, and they don't want to get out there and get too hot. So that's one thing I definitely will pay attention to. If deer come in, I play around with the deer if I know that it's not going to be a deer that I shoot, or I don't have a deer in the area that I can visually see that I'm not going to shoot. So I'll see how they're responsive to a grunt call. So if I've got a small buck up in front of me and I know there's some good bucks in this area, I want to see what he is doing at that time when I'm there. So I might throw out a doe bleat or a buck grunt and just see how he responds. See if he comes into it, see if he kind of shies away from it, and teach myself what they're doing then and there. That way, when I get a chance of that big buck coming in, I know that I probably shouldn't hit that big old grunt call, because he might just leave the country. Instead, I'm going to do that doe bleat and bring him right on in because it worked on the buck before him.
Gotcha. What types of mistakes do you think you've made over the years deer hunting, and what did you do to correct it?
I've made a lot of mistakes deer hunting. I think anybody that's really put a lot of time into deer hunting has made a lot of mistakes, and I think that's what makes us better hunters. I know that's what makes us better hunters. That's what has taught me a lot, just learning about managing your property, and what works is getting out there and having failures. I think that's something that we have to have. As much as we hate to have it as hunters, we don't like to fail. We don't like to blow out that big buck, but, we are educating ourselves that next time I don't need to do that. So I have made some big mistakes. I've pressured some areas a little too hard. There's times that I've just said, the wind or something is not going to matter. I'm going to go ahead and get in there, and I busted deer out and have messed up that area and changed the patterns of that buck. There's a lot of mistakes that I've made out there, even as far as even shooting a bow, when to draw back. I've got to make sure, if I can, that I've got some kind of cover between me and that deer, and then I'd like to draw back there, preferably, if I do have cover. That way they don't catch me in mid-draw. So I think it's something that hunters, we all have to do, is we've got to fail to better ourselves every year. And I think if we're not failing, then we're not learning.
I agree. What would you say one of the biggest lessons that you learned just by mistake, trial and error? Give us a big one. Give us an example of a aha moment in the woods.
A big thing that I've learned, let's see here. I would say one of the aha moments that I would have is, that I've gotten good at over the years, is just being able to go, that is where that deer is going to travel. I've just learned that deer are very lazy creatures, and if I can go out of my way and make a path, to my stand that is going to make it so much easier for them to walk. It could be as simple as brush hogging through a field where they don't have to walk through tall grass and they can walk through a short-cut area. I know that the deer are going to travel those areas. So that's one of my aha moments. Is I love to be able to look, especially even in the woods. You can look in some timber and just know where the deer are going to travel, because the area is just so much easier for them to travel through, and it's allowed me to set up on some really nice deer and have some really awesome hunts.
Gotcha. That's a good one. That's pretty cool. Let's go on a deer hunt with Stephen Dusty. And Stephen, I want you to bring us back in time and take us on a deer hunt with you, like we're traveling and watching this thing unfold. Take us on your most memorable deer hunt. Dusty, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, for sure. And where we're going ahead, Stephen?
Man, the thing about being a hunter, I think, I remember every single deer hunt that I have ever had. I would probably say one of my most memorable hunts that I've ever had, period, was about 6 years ago. I was chasing a buck named Quasi, very mature buck. He was at least a 4.5, 5.5-year-old deer. Called him Quasi because he had this hump on his back where he had some injury at some point in time, and he had a hump on his front shoulders. And well, I had a lot of history with this buck. It was one of those perfect type of scenarios that, I had my trail camera up all summer. I got to watch him grow. I got to watch him lose his velvet, and as season got close, I was ready. And this is kind of one of those moments that I probably messed up and got in there real early that season. Probably was putting a little bit too much pressure in that area, checking the trail cam a little too often, getting everything a little bit too perfect. And when we got right into season, I got it today, and I saw him at a distance. He had busted me. I kind of threw caution to the wind that day and said, you know what, it's not the perfect day to hunt. The winds are not perfect, but I'm going to get in there and I'm going to hunt because he's been in there every single day. Well, he was going to be in there that day, and the conditions weren't right, and he busted me on him. I lost him all season long. I hunted for that deer, and that was at the very beginning of bow season, so that was right at the end of September in our area, and I hunted. And I passed up a lot of good deer all through the season, passed them up. And I got down to the very end of season with only 2 days left of season. We had a Christmas gun hunt, and I was going to go out there and hopefully just take a nice buck, because at that point I pretty much wanted to just give up. I've gone back to that area that I've been there so many times, drove the 4-wheeler all the way up in there. It was an evening hunt. I got off work. I had a few hours to get this done, but I was going to put my time in. Got up there, started walking into the area where I knew he was at, and I spotted a bedded buck. And I was being really quiet. I was trying to make everything perfect from here on out because I'd already messed up early in the season. So I was sneaking in there, saw this bedded buck about 80 yards in this brush, and I was like, that is a mature looking deer. He's got a great side on that one. I need some meat in the freezer. This deer is going to hopefully go home with me. So he stood up, got him to stand up, took the shot, and it was just super pumped. I get really excited when I shoot a deer. I can't hardly contain myself. I do really good up to the shot, but after the shot, I just lose it. And so one of the traditions that we have as a family is I always call my dad. I'll get right on the phone with him, or he'll get on the phone with me if he's shot a deer, and I'm like, Dad, I just shot a big buck, and I'm walking up there just trembling, just so excited that I had passed up so many good deer all season just to finally get a deer down. And I got close to that deer. I was probably 10 steps from that deer, and I looked down, and I just freaked out on the phone. I was like, Dad, it is Quasi, not knowing that buck that I had been chasing all year, and he had disappeared. When I had busted him out early on that season, I did not get a single trail cam photo of him anywhere on that property. That's 200 acres that I had trail cams all over, and I never got a picture of him. Well, he had come in the night before, moved back in the area, and he had hit one of my cameras the night before, and he had bedded up there, and that was the buck that I was able to take. And I don't know why it's so memorable. I guess it's because I hunted so hard, and to be rewarded there at the very end when I least expected it was so rewarding. And he's ended up being my biggest buck. He's got like 16 scoreable points on him, and he was just a beautiful mainframe, tall, big 9-point.
Great story.
Very nice. And what state was that in again, Stephen?
That was in Arkansas.
That was an Arkansas buck. Okay. Quasi for Quasimodo. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly. You got it.
That's fantastic. What a great name. Wow.
Yep.
Great story, man. Just loved it. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about a few of our favorite questions we like to ask each guest. One of which is, what is your favorite hunting book or magazine that you got to pick up and read?
I mean, I've since being a kid, we've got them laying around the house, and everybody seems to have them in their bathrooms. But it's the Outdoor Life magazine. As a kid, I just, that's something that I always picked up. I love looking at, the new products that were coming out for the season. But probably my favorite thing to look at every single time in those magazines was the This Happened to Me story. I always loved reading those crazy stories of these crazy encounters that people are having out there in the wilderness.
Yes, I that is one of my favorite magazines as well. Stephen, how old are you now?
I just turned 30 this year.
You're 30. Okay. So looking back, let's say when you're in your teens, what would the Stephen of today tell the 18-year-old Stephen, knowing what you know now?
Man, that's a really good question. There's a lot that I would probably tell myself, and I think that's why I try to give back to the youth so much, because I want to help them out as much as possible. But I would just encourage myself, honestly, to just don't give up on your dreams. It sounds like cliche, and it sounds like everybody says that, but I honestly believe that if you want your dreams, they can be achievable if you really want them and you put God first in your life. I think you can get there, and that's what I would tell myself, and just to encourage myself to stay strong and to keep going for those dreams that I've always wanted, because they do come true, I think, if your foundation is right.
Gotcha. Now, where did you first get inspired to go hunting? Was it passed down like a family tradition, or are you one of those guys that just found it later in life?
Well, it was passed down from my dad, but my dad hadn't hunted his whole life. He actually picked it up from my mom's dad, and he got him introduced to hunting, and then Dad slowly started introducing me to hunting, and then I kind of went all crazy on it and started dragging Dad along more than he was dragging me along. So he was the one that, I'm sitting here as a teenager, and Dad's going, what kind of grunt call sequence should I do? And I'm sitting there showing him, because I'm seeing it on TV, and I'm showing him how to make mock scrapes and everything else. So it got to a point where Dad definitely introduced me into it, and now I'm dragging him all over hunting.
I can relate to that story. I have a very similar story to tell, actually. It's funny you say that. So, okay. So there's this thing in our pack, and we might have discussed it a little bit already. I don't know if we did or not, but it seems like every hunter that I've met has this one thing they have to have in their pack. It's not necessarily a hunting utensil or tool or anything like that, but more or less could be a good luck charm, or pacifier or something you found in the woods that you thought was unique and you had to have it with you because ever since that day, you had good luck hunting. What is that one thing for you?
I'll tell you what it is. It's not always in my pack, but I've always got it with me. And I carry it pretty much anywhere I even travel, even if I'm not going to use it. And I've got a hat. I was given a hat when I was a kid from one of my best friends. I think I was like 10 years old. And it was just my good luck charm. I'd killed pretty much every coyote and every deer and fox and everything in that old orange nasty hunting hat that's been ran over by four-wheelers and broken bills. And it's not a pretty sight, but I've always kept that with me every single hunting season. I almost freak out if I can't find it because I've got to have it because it's just been with me that long.
One of those. Do you wash it?
No. Yeah, it's not a pretty sight. It probably doesn't smell pretty, but it's mine. I like it.
That's funny. Gotcha. All right, so let's cover the last favorite question that we have. What is your number one hunting tip of all time? If you had to pick one strategy, one hunting tip, what would that one thing be?
If I had to pick one hunting tip, that's a really good and a really hard question. If I were to tell anybody anything to do about hunting, I would say my hunting tip would, just put on the spot on this one.
It's a tough one because there's so many important aspects of hunting. But if you had to like just share one tip, if you only had an hour to hunt, what would you say you should do?
I would say if I were to give anybody some advice on it, I would say if you had an hour to hunt, I would say get out there and hunt. That's my tip, just because I think you need to get out there and just enjoy every minute that you have as a hunter, and because it's something that you feel when you're out there in those woods. It doesn't have to be killing something every single time or even having something coming in every single time. But my tip would be get out there and enjoy it every chance you get. Even if nothing comes out of that hunt, just to be out there is what hunting is all about.
Okay. All right. And the hunting grounds, where can we find you when you're not here talking to us on this microphone? Where can we find you online? Being the social media person that you are, where should we be looking for you?
Well, we have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is The Huntin Grounds. We're from Arkansas, so we don't say hunting. We're hunting.
Drop
The Huntin Grounds on Facebook.
You dropped the G, I noticed.
Yep, you got to throw that G off. You got to put a little twang on the end of it there.
Yep.
And then Instagram, you can follow us at THG TV, and then we have our website as well that we put all our episodes on, and that's THG-TV.com for The Huntin Grounds-TV.com. So you can check those out. Like I said, we're putting videos out there every single week, new episodes. And, even this week, I took a kid on his first deer hunt ever and got him his first deer ever. So it was a great time.
That's awesome. So of all the social media that's out there, and this is a little off on a tangent, but for other people that have hunting pages and things like that, or what kind of strategies should they be employing to marry hunting to social media?
I would say just be real on it. Don't try to be anybody that you're not, and just make it enjoyable. Hunters like to see pictures of other deer harvests and tips and techniques and what's going on in their neck of the woods during that time, because they love talking. Us hunters all love talking to each other, and they love listening to each other, and hopefully better their chances of getting that deer down this season. So that's what I like to do on all our social media pages, man. We talk hunting. We like to tell you what's going on right now and what we're seeing and what we're doing. And that's one thing that's with all our social media pages. I am very involved with everybody. I mean, I get people message me on Instagram, on Facebook, that email us, and I love talking. I make sure to talk to every single person that reaches out to me.
Gotcha. That's very cool. Well, Stephen, this has been just an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show and to kind of hear what's going on in Arkansas. We haven't gone to Arkansas. I'm not sure we've ever been to Arkansas virtually and talking to somebody that knows how to hunt down in Arkansas. So this has been a good eye-opener, and I love what you're doing with the Huntin Grounds. I think it's a class act, and I really enjoy your videos. I think you're keeping it real instead of just trying to show off all the giant deer. It's a real, down to earth hunting show, and I enjoy that.
Well, I appreciate that. We work hard at it, and we try just to be ourselves at it, and just hopefully spread the joy that we have when we're out there hunting.
Excellent. Well, I wish you well, and I think the future is bright for you, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate your support, and I will be a fan of you guys for a long time to come.
Thanks to Stephen Fuller for joining us on the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. So, Dusty, do we have a Chubby Times tip of the week this week?
Oh, yeah, we got a Chubby Times tip of the week, Jay. Are you ready for it?
I think so, man. We're both sitting here tuckered out. I mean, you're just not your normal peppy self, and I'm ready for bed, to be honest.
I couldn't agree more to that. Man, I'm just wore out. You start to talk with other whitetail hunters, and you can tell stories, but until you experience it, don't ever judge somebody by their story. That's something that's sticking with me this week that I've been in New Hampshire. And, there's times that I ask Jay that, man, why didn't you shoot a deer this year? And now I know.
Now you know.
And before I didn't know, and I always questioned that. Like, man, it's just, to me in Ohio, it's so easy to be able to shoot at least a doe.
Right.
And I come out here and it's just like, man, it's really not that easy to shoot a doe.
I think you were thinking that it was a choice that I was making.
Right.
In fact, it's not a choice. It's just the situation. It's a circumstance.
Yeah, it's a matter that you got to hunt your tail off to shoot a doe here.
Yes. Yep. And sometimes that just gets the best of you, or you just can't seem to put it all together.
Right.
And you run out of time.
That's something that's my tip of the week, to really think about how you're talking to somebody else that deer hunts a different area of the United States, and really put it all in perspective, and don't knock them till you've been in their shoes, because until I got in Jay's shoes this week, I was kind of knocking him a little bit here and there, and now I got to find something else to knock him about, because I can't knock him about whitetail hunting anymore.
I'm sure you'll find something. Oh, man, it's been fun, man. We've had a great couple of days at deer camp in New Hampshire, and hopefully there'll be a deer camp Ohio here pretty soon. For the Big Buck podcast and all the people that participated in the off-roading deer extravaganza that occurred over the last couple days, it's been just a pleasure having you around, man. This is fun to hang out.
Yeah, I sure appreciate the hospitality, and I'll be back. Maybe not the whitetail hunt, but I'll be back.
So when you're not hanging out in the deep whitetail woods of New Hampshire with me, Dusty, where can we find you?
Well, right now, Jay, we're working on a new song up and coming that we're going to get into, and we're hoping to have that produced and edited and get it out to all the listeners, and you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a phenomenal song for us, and something that goes along with deer hunting and what we love.
Little parody on one of our favorite songs.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a good time there. But if you need to reach out to me at www.facebook.com/Chubby Times Outdoors, look me up at Chubby Gobbler right there on Facebook, and you can hit me up on Instagram at Chasing Antler. Jay, where can people reach out to you if you're not on the mic?
Well, I would say either send me an email first, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. You can always check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. You can always check us out on iTunes. I don't know what kind of device you're using at the moment to listen to this show, but if you are on iTunes, we are on iTunes, and you can subscribe to the show. You can also leave us a review right there. Big Buck Registry, just do a search there for us. We're soon to be on Google, as it is official, Dusty. Our podcast was reviewed by Google and approved for Google Play in the Google Play Store. So that's going to be coming up as soon as they launch. I'm pretty excited about that. And you know how big Google is.
Oh, yeah, and it's just an honor to be a part of all of it.
It's amazing. It's going to be great for podcasting and great for us. And you can find us on the Outdoor Podcast channel. You can also check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/Big Buck Registry. You can always, right after that kill, if you want to give us a call and so we can feel some of that exhilaration, 724-613-2825. And I think that is a wrap, my friend.
Big buck, everywhere, a big buck.
I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is live right here in the studio of New Hampshire.
Coming from you from the studio of New Hampshire, Big Buck Studios.
Hey, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Can't wait.